What's up, everybody? It's your mental activist, Montoya Smith, and welcome to the introduction to the Black Love Dialogue Legacy Before Love, a private podcast experience. I'm fortunate enough to feature one of our upcoming co-hosts, Chris James, a mental health activist. Let me take this banner down and introduce y'all to this brother. And we've just been letting y'all know what we got coming up on January the 25th, 8 p.m., the Black Love Dialogue. Thank you, Chris, for being with us, brother.
Hey, man, thank you for having me here, brother.
Hey, man, we're going to keep this thing short and sweet as we introduce this upcoming private podcast experience. We wanted to be a different experience, to go a lot more in depth, to basically help people in modern times navigate this thing we call love. As we say, if you're serious about love, marriage, and legacy, then this podcast is for you. And so what I wanted to say to you, to kind of kick this thing off, is just tell you why I selected you. And you came at highly recommended from my brother Sincere. As I asked him to be a part of that. He's well known in the Atlanta area, him and his wife, for helping couples navigate their relationship. He's a relationship coach. He's my actual marriage counselor during my engagement. And so when I reached out to him and said, hey, man, this is what I'm putting together, he was like, you got to have Chris James as a part of it. I know you and him are partnering on some things as well. And so, and obviously you and I know each other. And I'm like, okay, I love Chris James' work. So it's really a no-brainer. It was just a matter of, would you agree to it? And so, yeah, I definitely selected you from having read your book, Get Up, Get Out, Get Some Healing. Definitely beneficial to me personally, which helps me be in relations with others by understanding myself, which is something that you highly advocate. And all of our hosts are married, which I wanted to be people with experience. If in that sense, like I teach a lot of people the stuff y'all teach to others, but I'm engaged, not married yet. And I wanted to make sure not only did we have people who were married, so that's part of why I selected you, but the other part is you are a mental health advocate specifically. And I thought we wanted to make sure that aspect was a part of this, not just not just Sincere and the relationship coaches, while we have some award-winning coaches. I wanted to make sure the mental health, which, as you can see, mental dialogue is something I've always advocated for anyway. But something that I hear currently in current times that's used all the time is people advocate for mental health like you do as well. But when it comes to relationship, people have this idea of, go, fix yourself, get mentally healed, and then enter a relationship. So I hear people, in a sense, say two healed people need to get together. And the reality is, there are some things you can't see until you're in relation. So I had to have a mental health advocate as a part of this thing. So that's why I chose you, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, brother. Yeah, I'm excited to contribute, something to this conversation. And kudos to you, man. Because I watch a lot of platforms and I hear people talking about relationships, and I'm like, dude, you ain't even married. Or you ain't better yet, you ain't even in a relationship. Like, no track record of a happy, healthy relationship. Like, man, we don't need to hear from you. So thank you, for taking the initiative to do it in this way, bro. I think we're about to make some impact.
Nah, that's why we call it the private podcast experience, because we don't want to, like you say, as you're watching people out here and you're like, man, what's their background? We didn't even want to be competing in the public, if you will, with all the various podcasts. And for anybody watching, we're calling it a podcast, but the reality is we're actually doing a private experience where you can pay to be a part of it, and you're actually not in the comments. You're actually going to be able to talk to our experts, like when Chris is featured for our actual once we're doing these once a month, the last Sundays of the month. And so when Chris is featured, you'll be able to talk to someone who's, again, not just a mental health advocate because he advocates for it. He's actually have certification. And like I say, has written books specifically on getting to know ourselves and that type of thing. And so I do want people to understand it's not going to be the average thing where you're in the comments or just something that you're watching. You're actually participating in this. And so if you will, brother, I just wanted to also ask you this before we give them an example of what we're going to do. Why did you want to be a part of this particular private podcast experience? You had a lot of questions coming in. And so eventually, I guess we did enough for you to say, you know what, you're going to be a part of it. So what's your why, if you will?
Well, number one, man, I serve, as a wellness counselor, certified anger management specialist. mental health first aid instructor with the National Council of Mental Well-Being. So with that, man, I really approach life in a lot of different directions with the focus to help Black people be healthy and happy, right? Most times when people ask me, man, how you feeling today? How you doing today? My response 90% of the time is, man, I'm happy, and I mean that, So I believe that I have the ability to contribute to people getting where I am and beyond, so I thought it was only right for me to contribute to this platform. I think this is, it's a no-brainer, man. So, I think, the Black Love Dialogue, I think this conversation, this perspective, this platform, it has the potential to do some great things in the Black community. We talk about, wealth, and we talk about legacy. A healthy, happy marriage is the immediate cheat code to that, right? I said recently that legacy, I think people have it wrong about what legacy is. Legacy is literally a system that you have designed that your children and your children and your children after that are able to look at and duplicate or follow the instruction of to sustain what you have built decades before. That's what legacy is. Folks got legacy all wrong. So again, what I believe that I have to offer is habits, healthy habits that will contribute to you building a healthy system so you can build a happy, healthy, holistic life.
Hey, and now hearing you say that in particular is why I understand why Sincere said Chris has to be a part of this. So thank you, brother, for being willing to be a part of this. And so to keep this one short and sweet, and let you get back to your day, if you will. So if you're watching, we're going to be responding to various clips from around the internet. What I've been saying and trying to be real clear here is to a degree, the Black Love Dialogue is going to be a self-help for love, marriage, and legacy to a degree, right? Being a part of this community. And so what happens is people get therapy online right now. At least they think they do, right? That's kind of just how it seems. It comes to you online. And so what happens is you need more context to really get an understanding of even something that's actually beneficial. Like you look at a clip, you're like, oh, that's meaningful. So by having our experts who have their license and have their certifications to give you more context, it becomes more usable. So that's what's going to happen on these last Sundays of the month. You're going to get the right information and from the experts to give you more context so you can go do homework and you can use it inside your relationship or individually if you're seeking a relationship or if you're already in a relationship. Just an opportunity to have dialogue with the expert. Sometimes we have these clips and you're like, man, I wish my other person understood that. You could show up on this podcast together and have an expert walk you through what you're hearing or what you're seeing so that y'all can get on the same page. So here's a great example. We're just going to do one clip and let you respond, Chris, and give us more context after seeing this clip, if you will. All right, hold on one second. Let me get to it. All right, here we go. This comes from some relationship coach named Bay Voci or Voci. I'm not sure how to say her last name.
Do you know what the biggest problem in relationships is today that no one's really talking about, but it is everywhere? That we've never had more freedom in our relationships and we've never had fewer relational skills. We want to be deeply known without ever saying who we are. We expect our partner to know how to love us without ever having to explain what loving us actually looks like. We crave intimacy, but we avoid the friction that builds it. I was just with my supervisor, couples therapist, Esther Perel, at a conference where I heard her call it social atrophy. It was so silent in the room after she named it, you could literally hear a pin drop because we can all relate to this. We can date, work, shop, and leave a marriage all without leaving our couch. We've removed friction from our lives. But the problem is, friction is what teaches us how to relate. When every obstacle is just swiped away, we lose the muscle for navigating differences. We lose the tolerance for discomfort. We lose the ability to say, hey, this is what I need. Can you meet me here? And then we sit in these silent expectations, waiting to feel seen while resenting our partner for not reading our minds. But here's the hard truth. Your partner actually isn't a mind reader. They're a person with their own wiring, their own past, their own way of relating to love. And unless you tell them how to love you, they're just guessing. So no, your biggest problem is not a lack of love. It's that you've been taught that closeness shouldn't require effort, that love should be easy, natural, intuitive. But in reality, the most beautiful relationships are built through uncomfortable conversations, through repair, through growing the muscle of being honest and open-hearted. We don't need more chemistry. We need more capacity.
I think this is why we're needed. Current times, we've lost the muscle, the understanding of how to repair in a dialogue. We don't even attempt to. I just remember mentioning to my fiance a situation where watched two friends who literally just cut each other off versus having a dialogue about something that they could have had a dialogue and gotten past. But that's the normal. So if that becomes the norm, especially for our young people in this information age, they don't have a chance.
Yeah,
because what you're doing one-on-one, we as humans, we're communal. We naturally desire it, right? We desire a relationship, but we're losing the muscle that helps us learn it. And then the ultimate thing is, even with a great friendship, it doesn't have intimacy. So the lack of intimacy is your best friendship that you have for years. You're not intimate with your friend. So there's things you cannot experience even in great friendship that prepares you for what it takes in marriage, unless you're able to have these tough dialogues, because you're going to need more of that inside of your relationship. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
Yeah, a lot of thoughts come to mind when I listen to that clip. The first thing that comes up for me is that I think we as a people, we have to begin practicing healthy conflict. I think we've only experienced the opposite, unhealthy conflict. An unhealthy conflict is when you avoid the conflict, right? Like you have to, I wrote in my book, Get Up, Get Out, and Get Some Healing, that many people are emotionally illiterate or emotionally incompetent. In other words, they don't know how to read emotions, right? And they don't know how to experience the emotions when they show up in your nervous system, when they show up in your body, or when they show up in your face, when your partner is expressing them, right? So when you are emotionally illiterate and emotionally incompetent, the emotions come about, you shut them down, suppress them, ignore them, and do all that you can to avoid them, because that's uncomfortable. And conflict is uncomfortable. Ignorance is uncomfortable, right? So when we're ignorant to a thing, we don't deal with it, or we laugh at it, or we use microaggressions towards it, right? So what I challenge people to do, is to practice having unhealthy conflict. There is nothing wrong with having disharmony with your partner, right? I don't call it arguments, I call it disharmony, right? There's nothing wrong with being offbeat in an engagement with someone that you love or like, or someone that's in your family, because the issue is most people don't know that there's the possibility of resolve on the other side. So that's the first thought that comes up for me. It is resolve on the other side of everything that feels like conflict, everything that feels uncomfortable. That's number one. The second thing that comes up for me is that we come from, especially as Black people in America, right? This is called Black love dialogue, right? So as Black people in America, many of us have experienced either primary trauma or secondary trauma, right? And that primary trauma is the trauma that comes from our very own experiences, right? That secondary trauma is the trauma that Black America is experiencing, and it may not be in my house, but I see it, right? Like when I saw George Floyd die on camera over and over because I couldn't stop. That was secondary trauma, and I found myself crying in front of Regions Bank in Little Rock, Arkansas, while I was sitting in my car, and I'm like, "Why the fuck am I crying?" That's that secondary trauma. It's just as impactful, right? There are people who die every single day from secondhand smoke, right?
Right.
So being that as Black people, we come from all of that trauma, right? We have been forced to survive. Right. So when you are forced into a society and a life to survive a thing, you often forget what you're surviving and what you don't really need to try to survive from, right?
Right. It all starts running together,
It all starts running together.
and a conflict just puts you in that mode. And this is actually something simple. This is something that just a little 30-second breath, step away, and come right back in a minute. It's nothing, but it feels the same, and you go to 0 to 60 because that's what you're used to doing.
So because we believe that there are so many things around us that are perceived threats, right, that we got to survive, we have created so many what we call boundaries, but they're really walls, right? And Dr. Chris Jasper, clinical psychologist right here in Atlanta, he broke that down. He said sometimes we think our boundaries are just these lines in the sand, you know, but oftentimes they become these walls. So think about that, people who are listening. When you create boundaries that actually become walls, you eliminate the possibility for intimacy. What is intimacy? Intimacy is the ability and the exchange of closeness, right? It's getting close spiritually, it's getting close physically, it's getting close mentally, it's getting close emotionally. But when you have walls up, oftentimes you don't know when and why and how you got these walls up. So let's do the work to just eliminate walls, right?
I love it.
Let's do the work to just become emotionally competent, emotionally literate, right? So we can experience true intimacy. So, you know, and I'll lastly say this because I can get long-winded. I'm excited about
it. You rolling, bro. I'm loving it. I'm loving this, bro.
You know, but Dr. Miles Monroe, he talks about purpose as the Bible teaches it, right? But something he says is that a part of our purpose is to continue to reveal ourselves to ourselves, right? So the more you become spiritually in tune with God and right, the more you will reveal yourself to yourself. And I'll lastly say this, it's in the book, right? I talk about the word Hiel, right? Or the word heal and where the word heal derives from, right? The word H-E-A-L, right? Heal, right? To heal. The word heal derives from the word Hiel, H-A-E-L, which derives from the word, the state of being how, H-A-L. The word how derives from the word whole, W-H-O-L-E, and the word whole derives from the word holy, meaning spiritually pure, right? So when we have been abused and traumatized, right, those experiences have removed us from being whole.
Like you're further away from it.
Yeah. So
when I hear you break down the origin of the word, we're further away from where it originated from due to the abuses. With less abuse, you get closer. You can continue to get closer and closer. And in relation, you get to see the shadows you can't see on your own.
Come on now.
So there's a level of wholeness that can never be reached on your own. It's not telling everybody to be in relation, but your higher self is only in connection and in relation with another. And so that's why these things matter. Thank you so much for your time, brother. If there's any public information you want to give out right now, tell them how to get your book. We'll get that out. We're going to have you do one more of these before the 25th. And so, you know, we'll give everybody all the information of how to actually be a part of the private podcast experience, Black Love Dialogue. Tell them how they can stay connected to you.
Hey, connect with me everywhere you can by typing in Chris James Journey. I'm Chris James, and I'm on a journey. I look forward to rocking with y'all, man. My latest book comes out by the time you might see this. It's called Be a Man on Purpose, the manual for happy, healthy, holistic manhood. So make sure you check that out on Amazon. Be a Man on Purpose, Chris James.
All right, we out of here. All right, stay in the back real quick if you don't mind, brother.